Tonight, the Housing Authority is moving ahead with plans to modernize Concord Homes after losing out on more than $12 million to rebuild them. The agency's original plan was to rebuild Concord Homes in Beaumont's North End, then later build in Beaumont's West End. But a battle developed between the authority and groups opposed to its plan. With a year-end deadline to decide how to spend the money, the Regional Planning Commission says it was forced to move the funds from a public housing to general housing. KFDM's Haley Bull is investigating what's behind the decision and where the money goes now. She joins us live from the Concord Homes. And Haley, what's next for the development?
The executive director of the Beaumont Housing Authority says the original plan was to keep Concord Homes, and he vows they're not going back on their word. While they won't have millions of dollars in aid, he says they'll use money from their own budget to modernize the units in this 60-year-old property hit by Hurricane Ike in 2008. Nearly 7 years after Hurricane Ike ripped through southeast Texas, the region is still recovering.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
Including Concord Homes in the north end of Beaumont.
We were really looking forward to having them rebuilt and being able to come back home.
A home that can hold 100 public housing families, no longer getting $12.5 million in aid through hurricane recovery funds.
We were pulling for Beaumont Housing Authority, but it came to a point, we're in the final months of this contract. We had to have an eligible project or risk losing the money. Nobody wants that.
The Regional Planning Commission director says with no eligible project, the board was forced to reallocate from public housing to general housing before a December 2015 deadline.
We're not trying to be obstinate. We presented 4 very viable options. We compromised as much as we could, but quite honestly, I'm very proud of our board. I'm very proud of our agency taking the position that no, our word is our bond, and even $12.5 million is not worth going back on a promise.
The promise, according to the Housing Authority director, to keep Concord Homes, part of a revitalization effort by a number of groups in the North End. Reyna says the agency submitted 4 plans, 2 at the same site and 2 in the west end of Beaumont, all rejected by the state and advocacy groups. A Texas General Land Office spokesman says the Beaumont Housing Authority plans didn't follow federal guidelines. Reyna says 3 of the 4 plans could have met federal guidelines, but points to opposition from advocacy groups.
Easily what the advocates were asking us to do was to not only demolish it, but not rebuild it, and make the families that live there move to a place unfamiliar to them. It would impact the schools, it would impact the churches, it would impact the neighborhood, and it would negatively affect this community.
A spokeswoman for the Austin-based advocacy group Texas Appleseed tells KFDM News, quote, "We are so deeply disappointed that the Beaumont Housing Authority, after being told repeatedly for over 2 years by the federal government, by the state government, that their plans did not comply with federal law, turned down $12.5 million rather than comply with federal fair housing law. That's money that would have served the needs of the most vulnerable families in Beaumont. This is really a tragedy. Families in Beaumont living here, waiting for years to see improvements, now forced to wait a little longer."
I'm a little upset, but I mean, things happen, and you just got to kind of work as a group and move forward.
Davis says the commission will likely decide what to do with the money at its next meeting and that the majority would be spent in Beaumont. He also says there's an overwhelming demand for single-family homes and that the money would cover 800 to 900 people out of more than 3,000 applications. Reporting live in Beaumont, Haley Bull, 6 News Tonight.